Country right now we have this phenomena of the positive thinking, that our whole existence is created by the way that we think. And you said earlier that there were so many things that were involved in the creative process and our creative experience. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? Everyone is responsible for their circumstances based on their thinking process, how they think, solely.
So how you think? See, in these cultures, definitely you have given too much significance to your thought process, too much. It's the Western philosophers who went to this extreme. One of the, I think the Renaissance philosophers said, "I think, so I exist." So that is the level of significance you've given for thought. But you tell me, from your own simple sense, you tell me, which is true? Is it because you exist you think, or is it because you think you exist? Because you exist, you think, isn't it? Because you have not known life any other way except thinking. Now you have made it all important. Now, for me, there is no thought. If I simply sit here, I will sit here without a single thought on my mind. Does it mean I'm not existing? I'm existing, absolutely existing. Because I'm existing in such a powerful way, thought is just a small happening for me. My thought is just a small happening for me in my life. I can think, it's not that I'm incapable of thinking. I can think, but still it is a very small happening because my existence is far, far bigger than my thought. Now people are trying to make their thought far bigger than their existence. This whole positive thinking in the 60s, 70s, a few people made it very popular. Big names, almost all of them. Either they went neurotic, they broke up mentally and ended up in mental asylums, or they committed suicide. Because it's bound to happen. If you stretch the intellect beyond a certain point, you will crack up. You'll definitely crack up. So, thought being so important is a very unhealthy way to approach life. Initially it'll give you the thrill because you can create a few things with your thought. See, if you generate a powerful thought, you can make certain things happen. You can have a certain power over other people and situations. This will give you a high, but it is not an ultimate solution to life. You may be effective in the world, but within yourself you're still a mess. What is the point? What is the point? Right now that's what you're doing with… See, with education and other things, your thought is developed to some extent. You're effective in the world, you can do things efficiently, you can earn money, you can be successful, everybody thinks you're great, but you're a mess within yourself. This is happening to lots of so-called successful people, isn't it so? Yes? You see all the stars in the world, the whole world worships them and they think they're great, but most of them are just breaking down, isn't it? Looking good, you want to look good in 10 people's eyes. That's not going to change the experience of your life. If you sit here, you're absolutely blissful. This is what changes the experience of your life. What somebody else thinks about you, why is it so important? Or what you think about yourself, why is it so important? Whatever you think about yourself, whatever the whole world thinks about you, has no existential relevance. Whatever you're thinking right now has no existential relevance. It is only psychological relevance, maybe social relevance, but no existential relevance, isn't it so? Can I tell you a joke? Are you okay? Any kind of joke? No. once it happened, Pope died. Not this one, previous one. Pope died, and naturally, he went to heaven. He came to the gates of heaven. There's Saint Peter, sitting on a tall security stool, smoking a Cuban cigar. It's not banned there. Looked at this man who came with a strange cap and all that. He looked at him and said, "Who are you?" He blew a plume of smoke into Pope's face and asked, "Who are you?" Pope was aghast. "How dare you talk to me like this? You don't know who I am? I am the Pope." "Okay man, every day all kinds of people come with tall stories. You have a tall cap too, it's all right. Tell me, who are you?" He said, "I am the Pope. How dare you talk to me like this? I am God's representative on the planet." Peter looked at him and said, "Okay, move on. Not this way, not into the gate." He said, "Move on." He said, "How dare you say this to me? I am God's representative, you ask him if you want." Peter said, "All right." He raised his voice. Very busy. He raised his voice and said, "Hey boss, there is somebody here who claims to be your representative on the planet, his name is Pope, do you know him?" A grave voice from inside said, "I do not know anyone like that." "Boss doesn't know you, move on." Pope was, "What is this?" He was distraught. "How can this be? How can the old man say he doesn't know me? Oh, it must be Alzheimer's." "Okay, you do one thing, you ask Jesus, he knows. He knows, I am his representative on the planet." Peter said, "Okay," and he raised his voice and said, "Hey Sonny, there's somebody here who claims to be your representative on the planet, his name is Pope, do you know him?" A gentle voice from inside said, "I do not know anyone like that." "Sonny doesn't know you, enough man, move on. I heard enough from you." By now Pope was totally, how can this be? They're not letting him enter the heaven after being a Pope. He said, "Well, you ask the Holy Ghost, he knows me, I am his representative on the planet." Peter once again raised his voice and said, "Hey Spooky, there is somebody here who claims to be your representative on the planet, his name is Pope, do you know him?" A mischievous voice from inside said, "Ah, Pope, is he here? He's the one who spread all those malicious stories about me and Mary, don't you let him in." What you think, you can think whatever you want. I can think whatever I want. The whole world can think something about me. It has no existential relevance. It has only psychological and social relevance. So when we say a spiritual process, we are talking about an existential dimension, not a psychological dimension, not a social dimension. So, with thought, if you generate a certain amount of powerful thought, you can create certain life situations around you. But with that, you cannot know the ultimate. But there is something within you which wants to expand and know, isn't it? How much ever comfort you provide, how much ever well-being you provide from outside, there is something within you which will not settle. There's something within you which will not settle. It is just, you may avoid it. You may avoid it by watching the television, you may avoid it by going to the movies, you may avoid it by reading a book, you may avoid it in conversation with somebody. That's why you keep yourself so busy, just to avoid it. But if you sit down for some time and just look at your life, you will see everything feels empty and you want to do something else. It's always there. Either you address it or you don't address it, but it's always there. You can use your thought to create physical situations. But you cannot existentially move on by using thought because it has only psychological and social relevance to life. What is the goal of human life? What is the purpose of human life? Or in other words, why life? That's a question. When it comes to life and existence, you never ask why. When it comes to fundamental existence, you never ask why. Because if you ask why, then I have to tell you a story. When I say a story, even if it's a real story, real story, whatever I speak, if it is not in your experience, it is just a story. The only option that you have is either you believe me or you disbelieve me. Yes? If you believe me, it doesn't get you any closer to truth. If you disbelieve me, it doesn't get you at all. So, you never ask why. Right now, you're here with life. Why such a question has come? What is the goal of life? Because the process is not enough, isn't it? Yes? The process of life is not enough somehow. Suppose you were bursting with ecstasy every moment of your life, such a question would never come. What is the goal of life? Because to live is the goal of life. To live and to live totally. To live totally does not mean party every night. To live totally means, when you are here, you must experience all aspects of life and go. Whatever this is, every aspect of what this is must come into your experience before you fall dead, isn't it so? Yes? This must happen, isn't it so, for every human being? Or do you want to just experience 10% of you and go away? You must experience what this life is totally, isn't it? Before you go, you must experience this. If you do experience that, then such questions will never arise in your mind because that's not the way existence is. Logically, your question is very correct. Okay, I'm living here, what is the goal of my life? If I tell you the goal of your life is you must attain to God, you're making lots of assumptions, isn't it? We're making assumptions about various things which are not yet in our experience, isn't it? The moment you make assumptions about things which are not in your experience, you will become hallucinatory. 99% of the world's religion is hallucinatory, please see. Because you're assuming things that are not in your experience and working with that which you have assumed. The moment you give power to things that you have assumed, your mind will just fly off into all types of imagination and it'll be more real than real. See, your imagination can be more real than real, isn't it so? You go and sit in a cinema, it is just two-dimensional, just play of light and sound. But its impact is much more than the life itself, isn't it so? Yes? You went and sat in IMAX theater? Its impact is bigger than life, isn't it? But is it bigger than life? Do you think so? Is it really bigger than life? Not at all. It is just that imagination has such power. Imagination, thought, emotion, all these things are a way to pave the way. Now I have a thought, I want to go to New York. This paves the way. Once I say, I want to go to New York, now, okay, how to go, shall I buy the ticket, shall I walk it, what shall I do, shall I drive? It's paving the way. But if I sit here and go on thinking New York, I'll never make it. Thought is not a reality that takes you there. It only paves the way, it makes you willing, that's all. Yes? Thought and emotion only makes you willing, it's never the real thing. But once you start giving too much significance to your thought and emotion, it starts seeming like as if it's the real thing. More real than the real. What you're thinking in your head is more real than what's around you, isn't it so? Yes, that's the whole problem with life right now, that your thought and emotion has become a bigger reality than reality itself. Now, this is like, if you go probably in the countryside, there'll be, what do you call them? You call them handpost. What do you call them? A handpost? What do you call it? Something, a marker? A signpost, okay? So, these are called handposts usually because they used to be made like hands at one time, like this it used to be. Have you seen that? Like this, it says this way to New York. So, you go and sit on this and you think you're in New York. That's not New York, isn't it? So, thought is only a signpost. It points you in the direction you want to go, but it never takes you there, it cannot take you there. The people who think it is taking them there have become hallucinatory in such a way that even reality cannot get them out. Even if you poke them with a knife, they will not know, they're somewhere else. Their thought and emotion is far more important than that. This is a scourge which has taken humanity such a big way, such a big way. And of all the type of thoughts and emotions that we generate, the religious thought and religious emotion or spiritual thought and spiritual emotion are most dangerous because they're powerful, empowered by the otherworldly. Because of that kind of power, it just rules people. It just rules people so deeply. And we can always see that some other religion that you don't belong to, what stupidity, what nonsense they're doing, but what you're doing is just never visible, isn't it? Yes? Isn't it so? Isn't it happening every day? Because once the thought and emotion becomes powerful, you start believing it. Once you start believing something which is not yet in your experience, you are a dangerous human being. Because all the conflict on the planet, even today, what's happening, though people try to project it as it is good versus evil, though people are trying to project it as good versus evil, it is not about good and evil. It is always about one man's belief versus another man's belief, isn't it so? Always between one man's belief and another man's belief. Why can't we be sincere enough to simply see whatever we do not know as we do not know? What is the problem? This is the biggest human problem. They can't see that they don't know. They have to bullshit themselves all the time. And this is not a joke. This is a terrible tragedy on the planet, isn't it? This is not a joke, this is not a simple thing. It has cost phenomenally for human life on this planet, phenomenally, and still continuing to cost. But what we think and feel is so important, isn't it? So, what is the goal? What if there is no goal? What will you do? Will you die tomorrow? Suppose there is no goal. What to do? You want to die? Isn't it wonderful? There's nowhere to go. Yes? Isn't it really great? There's nowhere to go, you don't have to work your way to heaven, you can just live here happily. No, we are going to heaven. If you're so sure you're going to heaven, what are you waiting for? If you're so dead sure you're anyway going to heaven, what are you waiting for? I can't understand the logic. Huh? Where is the ticket? All you have to do is go and cut your throat in front of the temple. Understand? Whichever is your favorite temple, it will happen. People 100% believe after I die, I will go to the lap of God. If you are going to the lap of God, you should not delay it. Really. So why are you postponing such a wonderful opportunity? That's because you're full of bull. You tell yourself things which are not yet a reality for you. I'm not questioning whether these things exist, not exist, but it's not yet a reality for you. If you talk about things which are not yet a reality for you, to put it very bluntly, it just amounts to lying. This lying has cost phenomenally for individual human beings and for the whole humanity in a big way. The physical existence is ruled by the physical laws. You better be in tune with it if you want to handle it. There is no other way to handle the physicality. Because you are very spiritual, you can't walk the streets eyes closed. Can you? You have to walk the streets with eyes open, isn't it? So the physicality has to be handled properly. As we were mentioning yesterday, when the tsunami happened, so many people died, but people in the ocean did not die. Yes, people on the coast died. Fishermen who were on their catamarans on the ocean did not die, but those who did not go to work that day, they died. So his moral of the story is go to work every day. No, that's not the point. It is just that moral of the story is, if you want to live in some place, the deeper your understanding of the place, the better you get to live. Now you're in Chennai. The deeper your understanding of how the city functions and what happens and how the Chennai drivers drive, okay, and what is the intention of the state transport bus driver, if you understand all these things, the chances of your survival are better. Not that it's guaranteed, it's better. Now you want to live on the coast, now you have to understand the ocean because it's an everyday dance with ocean, isn't it? Do you see the ocean is always wanting to engulf you? Boom, 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 it's keep on coming at you? Yes or no? There are many ways of looking at it. When you're looking at in terms of survival and death, the ocean is always trying to get you, trying to reach out to you and get you, isn't it? Some days it'll reach out a little more. When the tide comes, you know you have to walk back, isn't it? So, you need a deeper understanding of the whole thing. The fish that live in the ocean had this understanding. The animals which lived on the coast had this understanding. But somehow human beings fail to have this understanding. It's a physical reality, where the deeper your perception is, the better you can handle it. Now, if you want to drive on the road, on an Indian street, the London people, you have not really driven on Indian highways. You should, it's an experience. If you want to drive on the Indian road, you not only know how to handle your car, you must be able to mind read all the people who are walking on the side. That's if you want to drive fast. If you really want to drive fast, you really have to know the intentions of the people. Otherwise you can't drive fast. Have you driven fast on the Indian highways? Okay, I keep the car floored all the time. And you really have to be absolutely every moment there. I'm just most of the time driving my car at 160, 170. I just stay like this for 8 hours. If I'm driving, I'm like not one moment like this. If you do this, you won't live. You want to drive at 40 kilometers per hour, then you can talk, look around, do this, do that and go. Yes? So you want to do something, you need a deeper and deeper perception of the situation. Only then the chances of your survival are enhanced, isn't it? If you don't do that, you will pay the price. But your train came late, so you got saved. Thanks to Indian Railways, isn't it? Or something else happened. Your ticket got cancelled. You were on the waiting list, you didn't get it. See, these things are happening every day to people. Whenever it happens, you curse it. But once in a way an airplane crashes or a train crashes or a tsunami happens, now you want to give some divine meaning to it. There is no need to look for mystical in the ordinary. Learn to handle the ordinary as ordinary, it's perfectly fine. People want to make everything mystical. This has become a fad. All the new age people right now, they want to make everything mystical. When I first went to United States, I went to Nashville in Tennessee. There somebody came up and told me, there is a spiritual expo going on right now, would you like to come? I said, wow, this is wonderful. Even in India we don't have a spiritual expo, I want to come. They said, we'll go tomorrow, and the next day they came and said, we have got you a slot to speak in the spiritual expo. I said, that's wonderful, let's go. I went there. One thing, it being Nashville, if you don't know this, Nashville is called as the music capital of United States, the country music. So somebody is really screaming away and I go inside and they're selling spiritual bath soap, spiritual toothpaste, spiritual everything, okay. This is like an Indian shandy, you know. You go to the village shandy, they got a root, if you eat this you'll become invisible, if you eat something else you'll become something else. You've seen all those things? It's all gotten exported to America now. We gave it up here, but they're picking it up in a big way. You should see the ridiculous spiritual expo absolutely ridiculous spiritual expo. It is just like the Indian village shandy, where all kinds of miraculous things are attributed to soaps and scents and bath salts and whatnot, everything is spiritual. So people are trying to desperately make simple situations of life mystical. It is because of this there is no responsible action in the world. It's because of this. Now there is a war happening, somebody says, God told me. And God has told you how to stop the war. If you are looking at the issues involved, you could have looked for a solution. But when God is telling you, go and wage a war, you must, isn't it? You must, isn't it so? So that's what is happening. Because you're trying to make the physical realities of life into something mystical, something otherworldly. Physical belongs to this world. It has to be handled by the physical laws, isn't it? What is otherworldly does not belong to the physical. That's a different dimension. That is not come into most people's lives, but they're imagining things. They want to concoct something and make simple physical realities mystical and not handle the physical properly. It is only those people who are handling the physical sensibly live well, survive well on this planet. Is that so? Is that so? Yes, that's all. So somebody dies, somebody doesn't die. There are many things that are happening in the world. Every day, how many people are dying in road accidents in Chennai? 5 people, 10 people? At least? Yes or no? Over 4,000 people are getting killed in India every day on the roads by traffic accidents. Over 4,000 people die. Oh, it's not me, maybe God is with me. That's not the point. It can happen to anybody, any moment. The way things are happening on the street, it can happen to anybody, any moment, isn't it? It's not you, maybe because you're a good driver, or maybe You did not meet those drivers. It's subject to physical reality, isn't it? There's one drunken driver on the street, not all of us will meet him. Somebody who happens to be there at that moment meets him, isn't it? How he meets him also, whether he whizzes past you or he bangs into you, is also subject to various realities, isn't it? It's a physical reality. Don't attribute all kinds of other qualities to it. Physical must be handled physically. Only then we'll have a better place to live. Now tsunami has come, all this halla-gulla, you'll see, they'll all forget about it in another few years. 50 years later, tsunami comes again the same nonsense. Now what do you need? You have clearly understood. Tsunami gave you more than 7-8 hours of warning. Yes? But we didn't heed to it. We didn't have the necessary instruments in place. We didn't have any kind of early warning systems. So when it came, it looks like God's act. Suppose you were warned and you moved away, what a great wave it is. If you had a ringside view of the tsunami, fantastic scene, isn't it so? Yes or no? If people did not die, isn't it a fantastic event? We would have built stadia all along the coast, 1 kilometer inside, sat there and watched the damn thing coming, isn't it? Yes or no? Such a great event, such an absolutely beautiful event, but because we are senseless, it's a tragedy. Tsunami by itself is not a tragedy. Human ignorance is always a tragedy.